Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle and triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. What do you think is the biggest failing with people's health?
I would say that the biggest challenge or opportunity I see with people, and I've probably had my hands on like 18,000 bodies in my career, is that people believe what their health professionals tell them without question. And I would say that is the biggest failing in someone's health. Because somebody comes to me and be like, oh, well, I have arthritis. I'm like, pause. You might have been diagnosed at one snapshot moment in life with arthritis. But arthritis, for example, it is inflammation of a joint. And we all have arthritis at some snapshot moment in life when our joint gets inflamed. But it's not a forever sentence. However, people take that and then own it. Yeah. And that is where I find me doing the most work would you be willing to let that go? Would you be willing for that not to be true? Because if not, then we're probably not going to get very far in our healing journey. If you're identified as whatever diagnosis you were given, however many years ago, then I won't be able to do much work with you unless you're willing to be wrong about that.
Wow. This just brought me back to a story a long time ago with carpal tunnel. Mm-hmm. So told I had carpal tunnel. Mm-hmm. I'm looking up surgeries. Like I'm going like way this way of, them having to cut me open and do all these things to like expand it or loosen it. I don't even know. Mm-hmm. And I've always been more on the, holistic, natural side. So I turned to Google, which may or may not be the right, I don't know. But I looked it up and I said, natural way of healing carpal tunnel. And I watched maybe, 7 videos with massage therapists, chiropractor type people. Yep. I did these stretches, like this way, so you probably know, stretches on both sides. Yes. For, 2 months, every single day, multiple times a day, 100% went away. And my wrists were so bad, I couldn't even lift like a gallon of milk. Yeah, I was in a sling. It was all dramatic, I couldn't type, nothing. It was bad. Yeah. And it literally disappeared 100% within just a couple months. Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
That is what's possible with the body. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying that if your surgeon or whatever says you need a knee replacement and you've whittled down the bursa sac and there's no cartilage in your knee. Like there are extenuating circumstances where people need that frozen shoulder to be operated on, but get a picture, make sure that the tendon has been completely frayed off before you go in and because there may be alternatives. But if people, they're so afraid or they don't like the pain, they don't know how to map what pain is in the body. And pain is just information. It's our body's way of being like, hey, something's out of balance here. We need to fix something. Quit doing that thing you're doing and find another way to do it. That's why I do aligned yoga, because doing yoga with proper posture is infinitely better than doing anything with improper posture, right? And so you might think you're doing yourself a solid by taking a yoga class, but if your shoulder is forwardly rotated and you're doing a weird down dog thing and you can't get the full extension where it belongs, you're not helping yourself. I mean, better to be there and work it out, but hopefully you're with the intention of getting your bones aligned so that your muscles can do what they're doing.
Wow. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So, you've mentioned a few things as far as improv, which was a long while ago, that you started.
Yeah.
And then kind of leading up into health and wellness. It seems like they kind of overlap. When did your eyes like definitively open up to the arena of, self-development, personal growth? When did you like realistically jump or walk into that?
I think I've always kind of dabbled in that domain.
Like accidentally?
Yes. And it came like through a side door here or there. Like I was big into church because again, I didn't want to be home. So I was like, let me be somewhere else. And it's sprinkled throughout kind of religion. So there are pieces of like how to be the best you and, the reasons for being the best you is like in service to God or whatever. So it's like, that was always part of it. I was a youth leader. I like went and did a mission over in LA at the LA International Dream Center. We did like sidewalk Sunday schools and stuff. And we're like feeding the homeless and doing like, so that has always been a part of what I wanted to be engaged in community. And I've always been in leadership roles. I was in student government. I was in National Honor Society. So I've always kind of been a do-gooder and like wanting to develop myself. I got into the world of like personal transformation. Like when I got into vortex healing, I just finished massage school. I saw there was this guy who was like wiggling his fingers at me across the room. And he was like, oh, your diaphragm's weak and you're low on vitamin D. I'm like, how do you know that? He's like, oh, well, I do this energy work and blah, blah, blah. So I was like fascinated. I'm like, cool, I want that. And so I started trading with him. I would massage him, or he was kind of a hoarder. So I would help clean his house in exchange for energy work. And then he's like, you can just do this yourself. So I started taking classes, and it was only for I wanted to use it on myself because I'm like, okay, I get that with massage, the best thing I can bring to a table is a well-integrated therapist, right? Like, so let me be the context or the space for healing to happen here. And that means that I have to do my own work.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that really makes sense. I totally get that. What were the 3 steps that you took towards bettering your life? You remember?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So movement, move your body. It's so key. Move my body. Like anytime I get into a funk now, it's like, oh, I need to start exercising again. Like I've been sedentary too long. So that movement is what helps like emotions process. It's like energy in motion, that emotion piece. So we've got to be in motion in order to process that stuff. So I would say above all else, move your body. I moved my body first. And then I would say being willing to be wrong. Just like the biggest failure that I see in my clients, I have to be willing to be wrong about whatever it is that I am not at peace with. Otherwise I can't give it forth. I can't forgive it. So yeah, the movement, be willing to be wrong, and then surrounding myself with powerful communities of people that are further along their journey, like that are non-judgmental is huge, like people that are willing to just yes and me and that have got my back like that, and then I can get their back. So being in service is a big part of that too, because when I'm in service for other people or to other people, I tend to like anything that I thought was going on wrong in my life just falls to the background.
Definitely. When you talk about being in service, I feel as if, even from the very beginning of you getting into acting or comedy, that in itself is, sort of being in service to, helping people's needs to find joy in their life. But you kind of alluded to it being kind of an escape for you.
Oh, sure.
And I want to ask, did you ever, or have you found something to kind of fill that void? Have you figured that out during your journey of personal growth?
I mean, I'm always a work in process. and yes, I would say now for me, the emptier I can be, like there's no, the void to fill is filled with the void itself. Like, so the thing that I'm looking for is me. Like there's nothing missing. There's nothing to get. There's nothing very serious going on here. Like, so it's like, I'm not, it's almost like the Star Wars droid. These are not the droids you're looking for, right? Like what I was looking for doesn't exist.
Wow.
So yeah, so there's nothing to fill that void with because there is no void. Kind of like there is no spoon, right? Like, but yeah. So I still go about doing things, but where I'm doing them from has changed.
Wow. Okay.
It's like I can still do massages. I can still, and I actually get called now more to do corporate retreats or team building or things for improv. Then they're like, how did you get that lead or whatever? If you're in the business world, they're like, oh, where'd you get that lead from? I'm like, I don't know. It was just a friend or a relationship I've had for 10 years. And they thought of me because they want to do something fun. Like it's not something that I have to try to do anymore. Like it just, people, if they think of improv, they think of me, or if they need whatever, like, it's just, I don't know. So the need to look for people's approval is diminishing the more I go through life. The older I get, the less I care what people think. Like, who cares really? Yeah. I mean, and of course I still care, like I love accolades. Words of affirmation is my second love language, so if people tell me that I'm funny or pretty or what, like, who doesn't love that stuff, but I don't need to have it from someone else. I can look myself in the mirror and be like, hey, Julie, you're gorgeous, and that's enough.
Yes. I'd like to hear your take on disempowering beliefs. What has been your, I guess, most disempowering belief? And then what do you believe now?
I would say the one that always got me was that something in the realm of you're not enough, you're unworthy, you don't deserve love, something in that realm. They kind of dance around each other. They're basically the same core issue that is like, you don't deserve it, Julie, you're not lovable. And it's interesting because it's not that thought never comes in, it just doesn't take root anymore. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. Who's saying that? Like who just came in the room, right? Like if I imagine my mind is this empty stage and I'm going along my day and I'm choosing to live from joy and peace and abundance and an extension of love. And then all of a sudden a thought like that comes onto the stage and I'd be like, oh, where did you come from? Who's speaking? Because it's not Julie.
Yes.
Because that thought no longer belongs to Julie, right? So, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come onto the stage of my mind. It's just, I don't necessarily give it form anymore. I don't take on that character and play her out the way that I used to.
Yes, absolutely. Do you, with that, it's sort of, I could see that sort of being fun to actually do, to figure that out. Yeah. Do you go in detail with that? Like, do you actually say like, this is mean Julie?
Oh,
like,
sure. Oh my God.
Wow.
I have a whole character of characters that come in and out of my head. I'd be like, sometimes Julie, the tyrant, little tyrant Julie, like I'm wearing pigtails today because she comes out a lot. Like she's like, I don't want to, you can't make me. No, she's really ornery and she'll get in the way of certain things. And if she comes up, oftentimes it's because I've overextended myself or I'm fallen back into the game of seeking people's approval. It's not that those never come up anymore. It's just they don't tend to stay for as long as they used to. They don't, when they're driving the bus, things just feel off, like it's like, I probably should say no to this. And if that comes in, I'm like, then say no, because we know what happens if you don't. Then I get overwhelmed and I get tired. And I'm like, I'm not giving from an outpouring or outflowing of having my cup filled and then overflowing my abundance onto whatever situation it is. So she comes up as a way to help me, to protect me from overcommitting, from her need for approval, right? So she's like, no, I don't like this. Don't do it.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely.